I killed someone, Father. The voice passed through the confessional grill like an iron-laden whisper. There was no crying. There was no hesitation. It was cold, heavy, and I had already heard many confessions. Small faults, repeated lies, sins that people call mistakes. Adulteries confessed with fake tears. Theft justified by necessity. Lies disguised as protection. But that sentence had the weight of something irreversible. Something that cannot be undone with prayers. Something that marks the soul like a red-hot iron. On the other side of the fence, I couldn't see his face. Just the outline of a large man, hunched forward, his hands holding something I couldn't yet identify. The broad shoulders, tense, as if carrying an invisible weight. The sound of breathing was controlled, trained, but the voice gave it away. It had cracks, failures, like glass about to break. He wasn't there to lie. He was there because he could no longer carry it alone. The church was empty that night. It was late. It was after 10. The evening mass had already ended hours ago, and the faithful had returned to their homes, taking with them their little sins and their memorized prayers. The light from the stained glass windows had already gone out with the sun, and the only glow that remained came from the flickering candles near the altar. The smell of melted wax mixed with old wood made the air thick and heavy, as if the church itself was breathing slowly. The confessional where I sat was cramped, dark, almost suffocating. The wood creaked whenever I moved, and the space between me and the penitent was marked only by a thin grid, full of shadows. I knew every sound in that place, the creaking of the floorboards, the muffled echo of distant footsteps, the deep silence that came after midnight. But that night was different. Outside, the wind was pushing against the old church doors. The sound echoed off the walls as if something was trying to get in, or out. The candles trembled, shadows danced on the stone walls, and in the middle of it all, just the heavy breathing of the man on the other side of the fence. And then, in the middle of that heavy silence, he repeated it. I killed someone. I closed my eyes for a second. I took a deep breath, and I did what I always do. I waited. Waiting is part of the job. Let silence fill the space. Letting the guilt rise to the surface. Forcing is no use. The truth comes out when it is ready. And that man was ready. I've been a police officer, Father, for 15 years. The voice now had a lower tone, almost embarrassed. He wasn't performing. I was trying to justify it, as if the uniform were an argument, as if 15 years of service erased what he had done. I've seen a lot. I've arrested a lot of people. Real criminals, you know. Drug dealers, murderers, people who deserve to be behind bars. He stopped. I heard the muffled sound of something being rubbed between hands. Tissue, maybe a cap, or a uniform folded in your lap. He was nervous. The fingers moved without stopping, looking for something to hold. I've saved lives too. At least that's what I thought. Lost child, woman being beaten, elderly man being robbed. I always thought I was on the right side, you know. His voice trembled slightly. I've always been careful, you know. I've never been one to act without thinking. I've never been violent. I've never hit anyone for no reason. I've always followed protocol. I've always trusted my training. Another silence. Longer, heavier. But there was one night, one damn night, when everything went wrong. I didn't say anything. I just tilted my head listening. He needed to speak, and I needed to let him spill it. Every word, every break, every silence, everything had weight. It was 3 years ago. Winter, cold. One of those nights when the city is empty, you know? Few people on the street, everything quiet. He took a deep breath as if returning to that moment. I was on duty, night patrol, me and my partner. We had been working together for about 5 years. I trusted him, he trusted me. His voice took on a more tense tone. And then the call came. Emergency, robbery in progress. An armed man breaking into a house. The dispatcher said it was dangerous, that there were hostages, that the guy was upset, screaming, breaking things. The neighbor who called said she heard screams and the sound of glass breaking. I could feel the tension building in his voice. We sped up, siren on, heart beating fast. That kind of situation that we train for, but we never know what it's really going to be like. He paused, long. When we arrived, the street was dark, no movement. The house was simple, lower middle class. Iron gate, small garden. The front door was open, wide open. His breathing became faster. We got out of the vehicle, gun in hand, me in front, my partner covering. We approached slowly, always attentive. He stopped again. This time I heard the sound of something being squeezed, something that made a light metallic noise. There was screaming inside, a woman crying, and then I saw a figure moving quickly in the room. He had something in his hand, dark, long. It looked like a gun, a revolver, or a sawn-off shotgun. He paused for a long time, too long. I screamed. I told him to let go. I screamed twice, but he didn't stop. He turned towards me, raised his arm, and I shot. and it was at that moment that I realized. His uniform seemed like a shield, but his voice betrayed guilt. He spoke of an irreparable mistake, of a life lost in his hands. He asked for forgiveness, but left the weight of his bitter truth with me. He wasn't telling me an accident. He was letting me in on a secret that was eating him up inside. But when the light came on, his voice broke for the first time. It really broke, as if something inside him had crumbled. It wasn't a gun, Father. It was a remote control, a black remote control, one of those big old ones. The guy was in a panic, trying to turn on the TV to see if someone was invading his house, because he was the resident. My stomach froze. The call was wrong. The address was wrong. The neighbor got the numbers mixed up. We broke into the wrong house. He took a deep breath as if each word cost a piece of his soul. The man was alone. The woman crying was on the TV. He had turned on the news and was panicking because he had heard noise at the door. He thought it was a robbery. He was scared. His voice was shaking now. I killed an innocent man. In his living room, in front of the photo of his family hanging on the wall. He fell on his back. The remote control rolled across the floor, and I could only stare. The silence that followed was so heavy that I felt as if the walls of the confessional were closing in, as if the air had been sucked out. And you know the worst, Father? His voice was now a thread, almost inaudible. I lied. He stopped. I heard the sound of something being placed on the wooden floor of the confessional, something metallic, small, cold. I said in the report that he had made a sudden movement, that he seemed threatening, that I had no choice, that it was him or me. Another silence, longer, darker. But the truth is, I had time. I saw it wasn't a gun. I saw his face. I saw the fear. I saw his eyes wide. I saw his mouth open, about to scream. I saw his hand shaking. He took a deep breath, and then whispered something that made my blood run cold. And yet, I pulled the trigger again. My hand shook as I held the rosary. The bead slipped between my fingers, because I knew that if he survived, everyone would find out that I was wrong, that I broke into the wrong house, that I shot an innocent man, that I destroyed my career, my life, my family. He paused, long, painful, so I shot again, and again, until I was sure. The wind pushed the church door hard. The sound echoed through the empty ship. A candle went out near the altar. The darkness advanced a little more, and then he said the name. Gabriel Mendez, 28 years old, accountant, father of 2 children, married for 6 years, lived in that house for 2, worked in the morning, returned at night, ordinary man, ordinary life. He swallowed hard. I know everything about him, Father, because I investigated later, because I needed to know who I had killed. I needed to see if there was something, anything, that justified it. His voice was filled with despair, but there wasn't. He was innocent, completely innocent. He paused. And there's something no one knows, Father. Something I have never told anyone. I heard the sound of paper being unfolded, slowly, careful. I still have the original police report, the one I wrote before I changed the version, the one that tells the truth. I kept it. I don't know why. Maybe because I knew that one day it would destroy me. My heart raced. My hands were sweating. And there's a witness, someone who saw everything, someone who was there, someone who knows I lied. He stopped. The silence was deafening. And then he whispered, almost inaudible, my partner. The worst had not yet been said. I didn't respond immediately. I couldn't. The sentence hung in the air, heavy as lead. My partner, the witness, someone who saw everything and said nothing. The confessor on the other side of the fence was breathing deeply now, faster, as if I had just run, or like he's trying not to fall apart. Priest, his voice was a hoarse whisper. When I shot, when I saw the body lying on the ground, when I realized what I had done, my partner was behind me. He saw everything. He saw me scream. He saw the man turn around with the remote control in his hand. He saw me shoot. He stopped. I heard the sound of nails, scratching fabric. Nervousness, contained despair. And he saw me shoot again, and again. My throat was dry. I wanted to say something, but the words, they didn't come. I could only listen. When it was all over, when the silence returned, I turned to him, and we looked at each other. We didn't say anything, but I knew. He knew. We knew that there was no going back. The wind hit the church window, a high-pitched sound like a moan. My partner's name is called Diego Carvalho, 32 years old, married, 1 small son. We joined the corporation together. We did training together. We patrolled together. His voice shook. He was my friend, Father, my brother. We trusted each other with our lives. He took a deep breath. And that night, when I looked into his eyes, and I saw fear, not of me, but of what we had done, of what it meant. I heard the sound of paper being crumpled, slowly, nervous. He came closer. He looked at the body. He looked at the remote control on the floor. And then he looked at me again. The confessor paused for a long time. and he said, "We need to get the story right." My stomach turned. Get the story right. Do not correct. Don't tell the truth. To hit. As if it were a puzzle. As if Gabriel Mendez's life were just a problem to be solved. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just stood there looking at the blood spreading across the floor. And then Diego said again, "Listen, the call said there was an armed robber. The neighbor called. The door was open. There was screaming. We acted within protocol." The confessor's voice was lower now, almost embarrassed. He was fixing the scene in his head, putting together the version. And I let him. He swallowed hard. Diego picked up a pen. He started writing things down in his notebook. Time, place, description. He spoke quietly, as if he was rehearsing. Suspect made sudden movement. Dark object in hand. Appearance of weapon. Refused order to stop. I heard the sound of something metallic being turned between my fingers. Maybe an alliance, or a metal. And then he stopped. He looked at me, and he asked, "How many times did you shoot?" The confessor paused. Long. Painful. I said 3. He shook his head. "No, you shot 2. The first when he turned around, the second when he fell. Self-defense. Do you understand?" My hand gripped the rosary tightly. The beads pressed against my skin. I understood, Father. I understood that he was trying to save me, that he was willing to lie with me. For me. His voice broke again. But there was a problem. He stopped. The silence was dense. I had shot 3 times, and the 3 bullets remained in the body. The report would show it. The forensics would know. I heard his breathing quicken. Diego thought quickly. He said, "You missed a shot. It hit the wall. We'll take the bullet out later." And he went to the wall behind the body, found a nail hole, small, old, and he said, "Here." It was here. My God. He took one of the bullets left in my magazine and stuck it in the hole in the wall with his hand. He punched it until it went in, and then he smoothed the plaster with his finger. I felt a chill go up my spine. And it worked, Father. When forensics arrived, they found the bullet in the wall. They wrote it down. They put it in the report. 3 shots, 2 on target, 1 in the wall. It seemed legit. He paused, but it wasn't. I heard the sound of liquid being swallowed. Maybe water, maybe something stronger. After that night, everything changed between Diego and me. We didn't talk about the case. Never. Not even when we were alone. It was as if we didn't talk about it and it would stop being real. His voice was shaky now, but I saw it in his eyes. Every time we got in the police car, every time we got a call, every time we passed that street, he stopped. Diego changed, Father. He became quieter, more serious. He started drinking. Not a lot, but enough. I saw his hand shake sometimes, when he thought no one was looking. I heard the sound of fabric being rubbed. Maybe he was cleaning his face, or wiping sweat. And there was a day in about 6 months after the incident that he called me to talk. It was the end of the shift. Everyone had left. Just us in the break room. The confessor's voice became more tense. He closed the door. He sat in front of me, and he said, "I can't take it anymore." My heart raced. I asked him what he meant. He replied, "That night, Gabriel Mendez, I can't carry this anymore." I tried to calm him down. He said we had done what we could, that it was an accident, that it wasn't our fault. He paused, but Diego shook his head and he said, "It wasn't an accident. You saw it wasn't a gun, and you shot anyway. I saw you see it." The confessor took a deep breath, heavy. I froze, Father, because he was right. He had seen. He knew. I heard the sound of creaking wood. He was moving, restless, nervous. I tried to deny it. I tried to say that it all happened quickly, that I didn't have time to think. But Diego cut me off. He said, "I saw your face. I saw you hesitate. I saw you pull the trigger. Again, it wasn't a reflex. It was choice. Silence. Far away. Mortal." And then he said something that haunts me to this day. The confessor stopped. His voice was now just a trickle. He said, "And I chose it too. When I covered it for you. When I lied in the report. When I buried the bullet in the wall. I killed him too." I closed my eyes. I felt the weight of those words like stones on my chest. Diego started crying, Father. A man of 6 feet, strong, trained, crying like a child, saying that he couldn't sleep anymore, that he saw Gabriel Mendez's face every night, that his wife realized something was wrong. The confessor's voice was broken now. I tried to console him. I said we would get over it, that with time, it would get easier, but he shook his head, and he said, "It won't, because we know the truth, and the truth doesn't disappear." He paused for a long time, and then he handed me something. I heard the sound of paper being unfolded again, slower this time. It was a copy of the original report, mine, the one I had written before moving. He had saved it, taken a photo, saved it. My blood ran cold. I asked him why he did that. He said, "Because one day, someone is going to need to know the truth, and when that day comes, I don't want it to be just you carrying this." The confessor took a deep breath, but there was something else on paper, something I hadn't seen before. He stopped. He hesitated. In the corner of the page, handwritten, in small print, was a name that shouldn't be there. My throat tightened. Marina Mendez. He let the name echo in the confessional, heavy, inevitable. The widow, father, Gabriel's wife. Diego had written down her name, and underneath, an address, a telephone number, and a sentence. His voice was now barely audible. She knows. I felt my entire body freeze. Those 2 words, those 2 damn words, changed everything. It wasn't just guilt anymore. It was no longer just a secret between 2 men. It was a threat, a time bomb. I asked Diego what that meant. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at me, with those deep eyes, red, tired. The confessor stopped. He took a deep breath, and then he told. I heard the sound of hands being rubbed together, sweat, nervousness. 2 weeks after the incident, Diego started having nightmares. Every night, always the same scene. Gabriel falling, the blood, the remote control rolling, and he would wake up sweating, screaming. The voice was shaky now. His wife was worried. She asked what was happening, and he couldn't take it. He told her, not everything, but enough. She said that he had seen something wrong in an incident, that he couldn't get it out of his head. He stopped, and his wife did something he didn't expect. My breath was holding. She went looking for information, on her own. She researched the case. She read the newspapers. She saw the name, Gabriel Mendez, and then she did something worse. The confessor hesitated, as if he didn't want to say it. She went to the wake. My God, he didn't talk to anyone. He just stood there, in the background, observing. And when Marina, the widow, came out to breathe a little, Diego's wife approached. She offered condolences. She said she had also lost someone. She lied, just to talk. His voice was almost gone. And Marina spoke to her. She vented. She said that she didn't understand, that her husband was a good man, peaceful, that he was never involved in anything wrong, that it didn't make sense that he was mistaken for a criminal. He stopped. Long silence. And then, Marina said something that froze Diego's wife. I leaned forward without realizing it. Marina said, I saw the scene. When they cleaned it up, there were 3 gunshot wounds on my husband's body, but the report says there were 2. And there's something strange in the wall. The hole doesn't look like a bullet, it looks like it was made later. My heart almost stopped. Diego's wife came home. She told him everything, and Diego panicked because he noticed Marina was investigating, alone, silently, and she had already found the first flaw. The confessor took a deep breath. That's why he wrote down her name. That's why he wrote, she knows. Because if Marina kept investigating and if she got a lawyer, if she pushed for new expertise, he didn't finish the sentence, it didn't need to. And there was more, Father. There was something that Diego discovered and that made me sure that we would never get out of this. I heard the sound of paper being turned over, more pages, more secrets. Marina had a sister, lawyer, specialist in police abuse cases, and 3 weeks after the funeral, this sister started asking questions. Officially, she asked for copies of the investigation. She asked for access to the body camera footage. My mouth was dry, but there were no images. The cameras had failed, both, mine and Diego's, at the same time. How convenient, right? His voice was filled with bitter cynicism. Marina's sister didn't believe it obvious. She filed a formal complaint. He requested an internal investigation, and the Internal Affairs Department had to open a case. He stopped. The sound of breathing was heavy now. That's when Diego and I started to be called, separately, to testify, to explain, to retell the story 1,000 times, looking for contradictions. I heard the sound of nails hitting wood, anxiety, fear, and I had to lie again, and again, and again, looking into the eyes of the investigators, keeping the same version, the same lie. Diego too. We rehearsed beforehand. We combined every detail, every word. His voice was cracking. But the pressure, Father, the pressure was destroying us. Diego started missing work. I started having panic attacks. We avoided looking at each other. We avoided being alone with each other, because we knew. We knew that if one of us fell apart, the other would fall together. He paused for a long time, very long. And then, 2 months ago, something happened. My breathing stopped. Diego called me, 3 a.m, voice shaking. He said, we need to meet, now, alone. I went, in an empty parking lot, away from everything. The confessor swallowed hard. When I arrived, he was in the car, in the dark, and when I got in, I saw it, silence. He had the gun in his hand. My heart raced, not pointed at me, just holding it, looking at it, like I'm deciding something. The confessor's voice was breaking. I asked him what he was doing. He looked at me, and he said, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to tell him. I'm going to confess. I'm going to give everything away. My God. I tried to stop him. I tried to convince him not to do it. But he was determined. He said that Marina deserved the truth, that Gabriel's children deserved to know that their father was not a criminal. The confessor stopped. And then, I did something that I never thought I could do. His voice was now a hoarse whisper, almost inaudible. I told Diego that if he told, I would deny everything, that I would say he was lying, that he was sick, that he was having a nervous breakdown, that his word against mine would lead to nothing. Silence. Absolute. Mortal. And you know the worst, Father? He took a deep breath. Diego believed it. He saw in my eyes that I was serious, that I was willing to destroy him, to save myself. I heard the sound of something heavy hitting the confessional, maybe his head against the wall. He put the gun away. He got out of the car, and he said, "You're not my brother anymore," and he left. The confessor paused. Long, painful. Since that day, we haven't spoken. He asked for a transfer. He went to another police station, another city, and I stayed here, alone, with the secret, with the guilt. His voice was trailing off. But there's something I haven't told you yet, Father. Something that brought me here today. My throat was tight. Yesterday, I received an envelope. In the mail. No return address. Just my name and address. I heard the sound of paper being unfolded for the third time. Inside, there was a photo. He stopped. Rapid breathing. It was a photo of the wall, of Gabriel Mendez's house. The hole, the bullet, and underneath, a message. Handwritten. His voice was now just a shaky thread. I know what you did, and soon, everyone will know. The wind hit the church door hard. 2 candles went out, and the darkness advanced like a wave. And then he whispered the last thing before his voice broke completely. The lyrics were Diego's. The lyrics were by Diego. Those words echoed in the confessional like a gunshot. I felt cold sweat run down the back of my neck. My hand held the rosary so tightly that the beads almost broke. On the other side of the railing, the confessor was breathing heavily now, fast, uncontrolled, as if I were reliving it all over again. I looked at that photo for hours, Father. The wall, the bullet, the message. And I knew Diego wasn't bluffing. His voice was shaking. He had kept evidence, not just the report, the photo too. Maybe more things I can't even imagine. He stopped. I heard the sound of something being squeezed. Plastic, maybe the envelope. And for the first time, I felt truly scared. The confessor took a deep breath. I tried calling him 10 times, 20, but he didn't answer. I sent messages. Nothing. I went to his house. He wasn't there. His wife said he had gone away. I didn't say where. His voice was cracking now. And then, 2 days ago, I received another envelope. My stomach froze. This time it wasn't a photo. It was a document. A certified copy of Gabriel Mendez's original report. The one that said 3 shots to the body. And underneath, a note from the expert, saying that the angle of one of the shots was inconsistent with the version of the report. I closed my eyes. The lie was falling apart. And there was a letter, from Diego, handwritten. The confessor stopped. He hesitated. He said that he couldn't take it anymore, that he was going to look for Marina, that he was going to tell everything, and it gave me one last chance to do the right thing. His voice was now just a trickle. He said, "You have 7 days. If you don't turn yourself in, I will turn you in." The wind howled outside. A candle flickered. The shadow on the wall danced like something alive. I panicked, Father, completely. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't think straight. I heard the sound of hands shaking, because I knew that if Diego handed over that evidence, I wouldn't just lose my job. I'd go to jail, for murder, for falsifying a report, for obstruction of justice. He swallowed hard. And my family, my wife, my children, were going to find out everything. They were going to find out that their husband, their father, was a murderer. His voice broke. And you know the worst thing, Father? I thought about running away, about taking my car, collecting the money I had and disappearing, going far away, changing my name, starting over. He paused for a long time, but I knew it wouldn't work, because the guilt went with it. I felt my throat tighten. He was right. There's no place far enough when you're running away from yourself. So I decided to do something different. My breathing stopped. I decided to look for Marina. My God, I know how it feels, but I needed to know what she knew, what she had found out, if Diego had talked to her yet. His voice was racing now, nervous. I waited for her to get off work. She's a nurse. She works at a hospital downtown. Afternoon shift. I was waiting in the parking lot, in the dark. I heard the sound of fabric being rubbed, sweat, fear. When she left, I approached, not all at once, slowly, as if it were casual, and when she went to open the car, I spoke. He stopped. I said, "Marina Mendez?" She turned around, scared. I raised my hands. I showed that I was not a threat. And then I said, "My name is Ricardo. I'm a police officer. I was there the night your husband died." My heart almost stopped. He had revealed himself. He had gone to her. Marina froze, her eyes wide. Her bag fell to the floor. And then, she whispered. You. Silence. Heavy. Mortal. As if she already knew. As if she was waiting for that moment. The confessor took a deep breath. I asked if we could talk. She looked around, nervous, and then agreed. We went to a nearby coffee shop. Empty. Just the two of us. His voice was shaky now. And when we sat down, she looked me in the eye and said, I know you lied. I felt a cold run through my entire body. She didn't ask. She stated it, as if it were fact. And I couldn't deny it. I just stood there, looking at her. And then, she started talking. The confessor paused. Long. Marina said that from day one. She knew something was wrong. The gunshots, the report, the camera that failed. It all seemed too convenient. His voice was almost gone. She said she spent 3 years investigating. Alone. No lawyer. No help. Just her and her husband's memory. He stopped. And then she showed me something. I heard the sound of paper being turned over. Pages. Documents. It was a notebook, full of notes. Dates. Times. Names. She had mapped everything out. Every step of the investigation. Every inconsistency. My mouth was dry. She had spoken to the neighbor who made the call. The woman admitted that she had the wrong address, that she was nervous, that she saw someone running down the street and assumed it was a robbery. He swallowed hard. Marina had photos of the house, the wall, the hole where the bullet was. She had measured it, calculated the angle, and she knew it didn't add up. The confessor stopped, heavy breathing. And then, she told me the thing that made me realize that I was finished. His voice was now just a hoarse whisper. She said, I have a witness. Someone who was there. Someone who saw you shoot, and who is willing to talk. My blood ran cold. I asked who. She smiled. A sad smile, empty, and she said, your partner, Diego Carvalho. He came to me 2 weeks ago. The world stopped. Everything stopped. I felt like the ground had disappeared from beneath me. Diego had already spoken to her. He had already told her. He had already handed over the evidence. The confessor paused. Long, very long, and then Marina looked me in the eyes and said something that I will never forget. His voice was breaking. She said, I'm not going to report you. I'm not going to hand you over to justice because I know that won't bring my husband back. I frowned. It didn't make sense. But then she continued. The confessor took a deep breath. She said, but I'm going to do worse. I'm going to make sure you live with this every day until the end of your life. My throat tightened. And then she handed me an envelope. I heard the sound of paper being unfolded. Slowly. Inside, there were photos of Gabriel's children at the funeral, crying, holding their father's photo, a 6-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy. His voice was disappearing, and underneath the photos, there was a note, handwritten, from Marina. He stopped. He hesitated. It said, every time you look at your children, remember them. Every time you kiss your wife, remember my pain. Every time you put on your uniform, remember that you took a father from 2 children. Silence. Absolute. Suffocating. And then she got up. She picked up her bag. And before she left, she said one more thing. The confessor paused. The voice was now just a shaky thread. She said, Diego told me not to do anything yet, because he wanted to give you one chance. One last chance to do the right thing. So here it is. You have 5 days. Turn yourself in. Confess. Or I will go public with everything I know, and you will lose everything. My heart was racing. My hands were shaking. She left, and left me there, alone, with the photos, with the note, with the weight of everything I had done. The confessor stopped, rapid breathing, out of control. And that's when I realized something. His voice changed. It became more tense, darker. Marina knew too much more than she should have, things that only Diego and I knew. He stopped. How did she know about the bullet in the wall? How did she know I had hesitated? How did she know details that weren't in any report? I heard the sound of hands hitting wood, nervousness, despair, and then I understood. His voice was now a whisper filled with venom. Diego hadn't told her everything in the last 2 weeks. He had told her much earlier, maybe months, maybe years. My stomach turned. He and Marina were working together, all the time, building the case, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment. The confessor took a deep breath, heavy. I had been betrayed, by my brother, by the man I saved, by the man I protected. His voice was thick with anger now, a cold anger, controlled, dangerous. And that's when I made a decision, Father. My breathing stopped. I wasn't going to give myself up. I wasn't going to let Diego destroy me. I wasn't going to let Marina humiliate me. He stopped. Long silence. I was going to do something that I never thought I would do. I heard the sound of something heavy being placed on the floor of the confessional. Metal. Cold. I was going to silence them. My blood ran cold. My mind screamed, no, no, no. Last night, I followed Marina home. I waited for her to come in. I waited for the lights to go out. His voice was calm now, too calm. And I stood there, across the street, with the gun in my hand, thinking, calculating. He stopped. It would be easy, Father. Open window, dark house, one silenced shot, and the whole problem would disappear. I felt nausea rising. But then, I saw something. His voice changed again. It was broken. The light in the children's room came on, and I saw her, the girl, the one in the photos, 6 years old. She went downstairs. She went to the kitchen. She got water. He took a deep breath. And then, she looked out the window, right to where I was. Silence. She didn't see me. It was dark, but I saw her. I saw her face. I saw her eyes. And I remembered the photos, the funeral, the crying. His voice was trailing off, and I realized that if I killed Marina, I would take another mother away from these children. I would do to them what I did to Gabriel's children. He paused. Long, painful. I put the gun away, and I left. I came straight here. The confessor took a deep breath. Because I needed to confess, Father, before it's too late. His voice was now just a trickle. But there's something I haven't said yet. Something that changes everything. My throat was tight. My heart racing. Diego is no longer alive. The world stopped. Diego was no longer alive. Those words fell in the confessional like a tombstone. Heavy. Finals. Irreversible. I felt my breathing stop. My hand released the rosary. The beads fell to the wooden floor and rolled slowly, breaking the silence. What are you saying? My voice came out shaky. For the first time that night, I had spoken. I had broken the silence. Because that was different. On the other side of the fence, the confessor did not respond immediately. He just breathed. Heavy, panting, as if every breath cost. Diego Carvalho died 4 days ago. His voice was empty now. No emotion. Lifeless. As if reading an obituary. Car accident, deserted road. Car hit a tree, exploded, body charred, identified by license plate and dental records. He stopped. Long silence. At least that's what they said. My blood ran cold. At least that's what they said. That sentence, that damn sentence, changed everything. Father, I need you to understand something. His voice was lower now, more controlled, but also more dangerous. Diego didn't drive drunk. Never. He was careful, meticulous, paranoid even. He always wore a belt. He always respected limits. He always checked the brakes. He took a deep breath. And the road he hit, I know that road. It's straight. Let go. No dangerous curves, no holes. Nothing that would justify an accident like that. I heard the sound of hands being rubbed together. Nervousness. Or guilt. And there's more. His car had been serviced 2 weeks before. Everything was new. Brakes. Tires. Suspension. There was nothing wrong. His voice was shaking now. So I ask, Father, how does a new car on a straight road with an experienced driver just go off the road and hit a tree? He stopped, waiting, as if he wanted me to respond, but I couldn't. My throat was closed. The answer is simple. It doesn't come out. Silence. Heavy. Mortal. Unless someone makes him leave. My God. He was saying, he was implying. 3 days before Diego's death, I received the last envelope, the last warning. It said that if I didn't turn myself in by Friday, he would go to the Internal Affairs Department with everything, all the evidence, all the photos, the entire report. The confessor took a deep breath, and I went into complete panic. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just thought. I thought about how to stop it, how to silence Diego before it was too late. His voice was racing now. And then I remembered something. Diego had a new car, a black sedan, beautiful. He loved that car. He always left it on the street, never in the garage. He stopped. He hesitated. And I thought, if something happened to that car, if the brakes failed, if the car went off the road, my mind screamed, no, he didn't do that. He couldn't have done that. I didn't know how to do it, Father. I'm not a mechanic. I don't understand cars, but I know someone who does. I heard the sound of something being placed on the floor, heavy, metallic. There's a guy, Chico, ex-convict, stolen car mechanic. We met in an operation years ago. I arrested him, but then I released him in exchange for favors. His voice was lower now, almost whispering. I called him. I told him I needed a service, discreet, urgent. He asked what it was. I said I needed a car, to have a problem, a fatal problem. He stopped. Chico didn't ask anything else. He just said the price, $10,000, and the address where the car was located. My stomach turned. He had hired someone. He had planned. 2 days later, Chico sent me a message, just one word, ready. The confessor paused for a long time, and the next day, Diego died. Silence. Absolute. Suffocating. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. The car left the road. It hit the tree. It caught fire. Diego was trapped inside. He couldn't get out. His voice was breaking now. The firefighters said he was still alive when the fire started, that he tried to open the door, that he screamed. I closed my eyes. My hand shook. My heart was racing. And I went to the wake, Father. His voice was now just a trickle. I went, in uniform. as if I were just another colleague paying respect, and I looked at the coffin, closed, because the body was unrecognizable. He stopped, heavy breathing, and I looked at the widow, at Diego's wife, the woman who knew the secret, the woman who had gone to Gabriel's wake, the woman who had started it all. His voice was filled with something dark now, something I couldn't identify. She looked me in the eyes and she knew. I saw it in her eyes. She knew it wasn't an accident. He swallowed hard, but she didn't say anything. She didn't talk to me. She didn't accuse me. She just looked at me with that blank look, and then she turned away. The confessor paused, long, very long, and it was at that moment, standing there, in front of Diego's coffin, that I realized what I had become. His voice was trailing off. I was no longer a police officer who made a mistake. I was no longer a man who lied to protect himself. He stopped. I was a murderer, truly. I had taken Gabriel's life out of fear, and now I had taken Diego's life. For the same reason, I felt tears in my eyes. For the first time in years I felt tears, because that was beyond any confession I had ever heard. And you know the worst, Father? His voice was now a hoarse whisper, almost inaudible. It worked. Silence. With Diego dead, the evidence disappeared. The envelope, the photos, the original report. Everything was with him, and everything burned in the car. He took a deep breath. Marina was left alone. No witness, no concrete evidence, only her theories, and theories are not enough. I heard the sound of paper being crumpled. Anger, despair. The investigation was dropped. Again, self-defense, case closed. And I was free. He paused. But I wasn't, Father, because the guilt didn't burn in the car. It stayed with me every day, every night. His voice was broken now, completely broken. I started seeing Diego in the hallways of the police station, in the car's rear-view mirror, in the reflection of the window, always looking at me, always in silence. He stopped, breathe, accelerated ration. And then, a week ago, I got a call. My breathing stopped. It was from an unknown number. I answered, and on the other end, silence. Just breathing, heavy, as if someone was watching. I heard the sound of nails scratching wood, and then a voice, low, distorted, said, "I know what you did to Diego." My heart raced, and hung up. The confessor paused, long, very long. Since then, I've been getting calls, every day, always at the same time, 3 in the morning, always the same voice, always the same phrase. His voice was shaking. "I know what you did." He stopped, and last night, the call was different. My throat was tight. The voice said, "Do you think it's over? Do you think you're safe? There's someone who still knows, and she's going to make you pay." Silence, mortal. And then, the voice said a name. He hesitated, as if he didn't want to say it. Ana Paula Carvalho. My blood ran cold. Diego's daughter, 15 years old. I didn't even know she existed, because she lived with her mother, out of town, far away. His voice was trailing off. But now, she's back, after her father's death, and she knows something. The confessor took a deep breath. "And there's more, Father. There's something that Diego left for her." I heard the sound of paper being unfolded, for the last time. Earlier today, I received an email, anonymous, just with a photo attached. He stopped. He hesitated. It was a photo of Diego, in his car, in the passenger seat, and there was something in his hand. His voice was now just a shaky thread, an envelope, sealed, with my name written on it. My heart almost stopped, and underneath the photo, a message, written by him, before he died. He stopped, heavy breathing, out of control. "If you see this, it's because I couldn't deliver it myself, but don't worry, I left it in a safe place, and someone will open it, soon, and when they do, everyone will know what you are." Silence. Absolute. Mortal. Diego knew, Father. He knew I was going to try to kill him. He prepared everything. He left a guarantee. The confessor paused. Long, painful, and now, that envelope is somewhere, with someone, and I don't know who. I don't know where. I don't know when they're going to open it. His voice was trailing off, but I know that when they open, I'm finished. He took a deep breath for the last time. "And there's something I haven't told you yet, Father. Something that no one knows." My breath was holding. My entire body was tense. "Chico, the mechanic I hired to sabotage Diego's car." He stopped. Long silence. "He called me yesterday, drunk, crying, saying he can't take it anymore, that he's going to turn himself in, that he's going to tell everything. My God. And I arranged to meet him, tonight, in a secluded place, to talk." His voice was now an icy whisper, empty. "But I'm not just going to talk, Father." I heard the sound of metal being dragged across the floor of the confessional. I brought my gun. The wind hit the church door hard. All the candles went out at the same time, and darkness swallowed everything. And then he whispered the last thing before absolute silence. "And this time, I won't hesitate. I couldn't respond immediately. Not this time. Because that last sentence and that damn last sentence wasn't a confession anymore. It was a statement. A death sentence. Son, my voice came out hoarse, trembling. I rarely called penitence that way. But that man was on the brink, and I needed to try to pull him back. You can't do that. Silence. Far away. Heavy. I know, Father. His voice was different now. Calm. Cold. Resigned. As if he had already made the decision a long time ago and was just reporting it. I know I can't. I know it will condemn me, that it will turn me into something irreparable. He stopped. He took a deep breath. But I'm already doomed. Since the night I killed Gabriel. Since the moment I lied. Since I buried that bullet in the wall. Since I sabotaged Diego's car. I heard the sound of metal being dragged again. The weapon. He was holding the gun. And now, Chico is the last piece. The last witness. If he gives himself up, everything falls apart. Everything. His voice was lower now. So I need to do this not because I want to, but because I no longer have a choice. I closed my eyes. I felt the weight of those words like chains around my neck. He was wrong. There is always a choice. But for him, for that man, the choice had been buried along with the bodies he left behind. And after that, after Chico, what are you going to do? My question echoed in the confessional, and for the first time that night, he didn't respond right away. I don't know, Father. His voice was trailing off. Maybe I'll disappear. Maybe I'll turn myself in. Maybe I'll do what Diego wanted to do that night in the parking lot. My blood ran cold. The weapon. He was talking about the gun. But before that, I need to know. He stopped. Hesitu. I need to know where that envelope is. What Diego left. Because if it gets into the wrong hands, my family will pay. My wife, my children, they will carry the shame of my name for the rest of their lives. I heard the sound of paper being folded. Slowly. Careful. And I can't let that happen. He paused for a long time. Then I'll go to Chico. I'll do what needs to be done. And then I'll go get the envelope. His voice was steady now. Decided. Whatever it takes. And then, silence. Absolute silence. I waited. I waited for him to continue. I waited for him to say something else. But nothing came. Just the sound of the wind hitting the church door, the creaking of old wood, and the heavy breathing of the man on the other side of the fence. Are you still there? My voice was low, almost a whisper. I am, Father. He stopped. But I need to go. The meeting with Chico is in an hour, and I need to be ready. I heard the sound of footsteps. He was getting up, picking things up, getting ready to leave. Wait. My voice was louder this time, firmer. You came this far. You confessed everything. You opened your soul. And now, you're going to go out and commit another sin? Silence. Then why did you come, son? Why did you tell me all this? I heard his breathing stop for a second, and then he responded, because I needed someone to know, Father. Someone other than me. Someone who would keep this truth in case I don't return. His voice was broken now. Because if I die today, if something goes wrong, I don't want this story to die with me. I want someone to know, for someone to remember. He stopped. That Gabriel Mendez was innocent. That Diego Carvalho tried to do the right thing, and that I destroyed everything. I felt tears in my eyes, for the second time that night. Because that man wasn't seeking absolution. He was looking for a witness. Someone who would carry the weight with him. And you think this will save you? You think telling me will ease your guilt? My voice was thick now, of anger, of sadness, of despair. No, Father. His response was immediate, firm. I know that nothing will save me. I know that there is no forgiveness for me. Not from God, not from men, not from myself. He stopped. He took a deep breath. But at least now the truth exists outside my head. And that will have to do. And then he turned around. I heard the footsteps moving away, the confessional door opening, the sound echoing through the empty ship. Son, I tried once again. My last attempt. If you do this, you'll never make it back. He stopped. For a second, maybe two. And then, without turning around, he replied, I know, and left. I stayed there, alone, in the dark, with the weight of that confession pressing down on my chest like a stone. I looked at the rosary lying on the floor, for the unlit candles, to the shadows that danced on the walls, and for the first time in all my years as a priest, I didn't know what to do, because that man hadn't asked for forgiveness. He had asked for complicity, and I had given, just listening, just being silent. I had become part of it. I got up, slowly. The legs were weak, trembling. I left the confessional and walked down the aisle. The candles were all out now. The church was plunged into complete darkness, just the moonlight coming through the broken stained glass windows, lighting up the stone floor. Cold, distant. I knelt down. I closed my eyes, and I tried to pray. I tried asking for guidance. I tried to ask for strength, but the words wouldn't come. Just silence, silence, and the echo of that voice. And this time, I won't hesitate. I don't know how long I stayed there. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. But when I opened my eyes, I felt something different in the air. A presence, a sound, steps. I turned around, and I saw a figure standing at the entrance to the church. Small, skinny, dressed in black. A woman. She walked slowly down the aisle. The footsteps echoed. Firm, decided. And when she got close enough, I saw the face. Marina Mendez. My heart raced. She was there, in my church, in the middle of the night. And through her eyes, I knew. She knew. Priest. Her voice was low, controlled, but loaded with something I couldn't identify. Pain, anger, determination. I know he was here. It wasn't a question. It was affirmation. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just looked at her, and she continued. I followed him, ever since he left the house. I saw him come in here, I waited, and now, he left. She took another step, and I know where he's going. My throat was dry. He's going to kill Chico, the mechanic, the last witness, and then, he's going to disappear. Marina stopped. He looked me in the eyes. Unless someone stops it, I felt a chill go up my spine. And you want me to do what? My voice came out shaky, weak. I want you to tell me where they will meet. She didn't look away. Firm, relentless. Because if you don't tell me, Chico will die, and Ricardo, the man who killed my husband, will escape again. I closed my eyes. My God, she was asking me to break the confidentiality, to betray the confession, to become an active part of it. I can't do this. My voice was low, but firm. What is said in the confessional dies in the confessional. That is the vow I made, the promise I carry. Marina shook her head, slowly, and then she smiled. A sad smile, empty, broken. I knew you were going to say that. She turned her back. He started walking towards the door, but before leaving, she stopped. The envelope, Father, the one Diego left. It's with me. My blood ran cold. Diego gave it to me personally, 2 weeks before he died. He said if anything happened to him, I should open it and use it. She looked back, over the shoulder. And I will. Tomorrow morning, I'll take everything to the press. All the evidence, all the documents, all the photos. She stopped. He took a deep breath. And Ricardo's name will be in all the headlines. And then she left. The door closed behind her, and the silence returned. Heavy, mortal. I stayed there, stopped, looking at the altar, to the crucifix hanging on the wall, to the image of Christ suffering, bleeding, carrying the weight of the world. And I understood, for the first time, what that man had given me that night. It wasn't a confession. It was a burden, a weight I would carry forever, because now, I knew everything, and I couldn't do anything. I walked back to the confessional. I picked up the rosary from the floor. The bills were cold, heavy. I sat on the bench where he had been, and I looked at the railing, and then, I saw it, on the floor, partially hidden under the seat, a piece of paper, folded, needed. I got it, with shaking hands. I unfolded it slowly, and I read it. It was an address, handwritten, with hurried lyrics, nervous. Abandoned warehouse, Rua das Oliveiras, 8:47, 11 p.m. The meeting place with Chico. He had dropped it, or, maybe, he had left it on purpose. I looked at the paper, to the address, for the schedule, and then I looked at the clock on the wall, 10:47 p.m., 13 minutes. I had 13 minutes to decide, to choose, to break my vow or let another man die. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath, and I kept the paper in my pocket, and I stayed there, in the dark, in the silence, waiting, because I didn't know what to do, and maybe that was the worst part, not the confession itself, but the weight of carrying the truth and not being able to do anything with it. The minutes passed, slowly, painfully, and then, the church bell rang, 3 times, slow, heavy, as a warning. 11 p.m. I got up, I walked to the window and I looked outside, to the city, to the distant lights, to the darkness that covered everything, and somewhere, at that very moment, something was happening, something irreversible, something I had the power to stop, but I chose not to stop it, because the vote was bigger than anything, greater than justice, greater than life or death, bigger than me. I went back to the confessional. I sat down, I closed my eyes, and I waited. And 3 hours later, as the sun began to rise, I heard it, sirens, distant, but getting closer, lots of, quick, urgent. I left the church, I walked to the sidewalk, and I saw it, police cars passing by, ambulances, all heading in the same direction, Rua das Oliveiras. I closed my eyes, and I knew something had happened, something terrible, and I had been the last person to talk to that man before that. I went back inside, I locked the door, and I stayed there, in the dark, in the silence, with the weight of that night pressing down on my chest. And then, I remembered his first words. From the moment it all started, his uniform seemed like a shield, but his voice betrayed guilt. He spoke of an irreparable mistake, of a life lost in his hands. He asked for forgiveness but left the weight of his bitter truth with me, and now, that weight was mine, forever. I never knew what happened in that warehouse. If Ricardo killed Chico, if Chico killed Ricardo, if Marina arrived on time, if anyone arrived on time, because the next day, there was no news, there was no headline, there was nothing, just silence. And a week later, I received a letter, no sender, just my name on the envelope. Inside, there was a photo, from the confessional, from where I was sitting, taken from outside, through the grid, and below, a sentence, handwriting. Thank you for keeping the secret, but remember, secrets never die, they just wait. There was no signature, there was no name, but I knew who sent it. And since then, every time I enter the confessional, I feel it, his presence, his voice, the weight of that night, because some confessions don't liberate, they just shift the burden. And now, I carry two weights, my and his. I never saw Ricardo again, I never heard from him again. I don't know if and he is alive. If you are arrested, he ran away, if it disappeared. But I know one thing, that night changed something in me. It broke something I didn't know could be broken. The certainty, faith, the idea that the confessional was a place of healing, because that night, there was no healing, just pain transfer. And now, every time someone walks into that confessional, every time they start talking, I wonder, will this confession haunt me too? Will this weight stay too? And the answer is always yes, because that's who I am now, not just a priest, but a keeper of secrets, a living tomb where the truth is buried, and where she never rests. That night I closed the confessional door for the last time, but the words still haunt me to this day. Gabriel Mendez, Diego Carvalho, Chico, Marina, Richard, they all live here now, in my memory, in my silence, at my weight, and I know that I will carry them to the end, because that is the curse of the confessional. The truth enters, but it never comes out.